The views and opinions expressed on this podcast is solely of the creator and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the listeners. Listener discretion is advised. ChatGPT and AI technologies were not used or harmed during the creation of this podcast. Hello friends, or should I say happy Halloween. Now, today's episode is just going to be we're going to be talking about Halloween or Samhain. Let me show you guys the right way. Don't call it Samhain, that's not how you pronounce it. We're going to call it like this. Samhain, right. And some traditions and customs of Samhain is lighting bonfires and making sacrifices to honor the ancestors and the spirits, leaving food offerings outside of the door for wandering souls, playing tricks on each other and dressing up in costumes made of animal hides, mumming, which involves going door to door and performing for food or money, playing games and doing fortune telling to predict the future, having a dumb supper, which is a meal with an empty spot, a place setting for the dead loved ones, making Samhain crosses and salt wards to protect against evil. Jack-o'-lanterns are a tradition of this holiday. You light your jack-o'-lanterns on the night of Samhain, which is the 30th, All Hallows Eve, and to ward off all the bad spirits. So, it's also a full moon, because this is Under the Moon Paranormal Ohio Legends. So, a little bit about this full moon that we're having tonight. It's shifting your life 10 times, bringing fear shifts and deep energy clearing. There's going to be another powerful full moon in 72 hours, which it started last night. This moon is called the blood moon, also known as the hunter's moon, because Native Americans used to hunt during this time. Blood moons bring fear shifts and realignments, deepest traumas, wounds, anything toxic people with bad intentions are being cleared away. Blockages like fears, doubts, and stagnant energy are burning away. Embrace this shift because your life is going to get better 10 times in all levels. And also, the veil is thin and it is officially spooky. Alright guys, so we're talking about Ohio's own Sleepy Hollow legend. Can you believe that Ohio has its very own, like, Ichabod Crane and Headless Horseman Sleepy Hollow legend? Well, let's dive into it, shall we? We're talking about Rogues Hollow. Mysterious things began to happen in the wooded hollow that used to be the mining village of Rogues Hollow. Russell Frey's self-published history book describes many of them, and you can still hear about haunted mills and headless horsemen from the guides at the Rogues Hollow Historical Society. Touring the hollow doesn't give you much of an idea of what this ghost town used to be, since the handful of buildings that still remain are dilapidated and unidentifiable only by wooden signs posted along the path. The mines and caves are all sealed up. Sorry, I lost my spot. and the old rutted road to Doylestown has been replaced by a smooth 2-lane blacktop. Alright, a little bit of history here. In the 19th century, late 19th, early 20th century, however, Rogues Hollow was a wild place. Outlaws and gangsters hid out here, far from civilization of any kind of effective law enforcement. So they were out here in the boonies in Ohio, and outlaws and gangsters were everywhere in this little, a mill town. The locals weren't much better. Shootouts were fairly regular occurrence, and was being robbed at gunpoint by bandits of all stripes. It's speculated that the more bizarre aspects of Rogues Hollow lore were made up to keep people away from what was actually just a down and dirty, crooked town. But bizarre things continue to happen there, even a full century later. As Frey's history says, ghosts are best seen in the hollow on a moonlit night, just like tonight, when there are large, fleecy clouds overhead, just like tonight. Then the hollow fairly comes alive with the residents of the spirit world, those who had hand in making Rogues Hollow a wild and dangerous place scores of years ago. It is said that you can see more as twilight turns to pitch blackness of the night. Then you can see nooks and crannies with shadow forms on the move. So it sounds like there's a lot of shadow people here. Although long since burned to the ground under mysterious circumstances, the apparition that haunted Chittister's Mill was a popular spook tale in the hollow for many years. Despite denials from the Chittisters family, the unpainted, slat-sided woolen mill was a favorite place for kids to dare each other to sneak into. When the untraceable fire turned it to ashes, it was thought that the ghost had set it out in spite of rather than allow the building to be sold to an outsider. So they're saying that the ghost set the fire. Okay, maybe. If it could have been teenagers too. That's what it sounds like. The abandoned mines around Rogues Hollow are full of apparitions of miners who died suddenly there in the cave-ins and suffocation accidents. Tools are said to be picked up by unseen hands in the black shafts and chip away at the veins of the coal. Though the entrance to the mine has been permanently blocked, and the walkways near the mine shafts are equally plagued by the residents of the spirit world. So guess what? There's also a Cry Baby Bridge at Rogues Hollow. So that's 2 that I have mentioned on this podcast. So that's 2. I think there's like 18 Cry Baby Bridges in Ohio. So let's talk about the one in Rogues Hollow. Rogues Hollow Crybaby Bridge is probably the most widespread legend of its kind in the entire state. And what's saying something with each state has dozens of variations on this theme. So Ohio is not the only state that has crybaby bridges. So here's this one. The woman who threw her unwanted newborn over the edge, if she ever did exist, is long dead. Today it's a nondescript footbridge over a small creek near the visitor center, but odd things are still seen from time to time in the vicinity. The remorseful mother sometimes still weeps over the railing or wanders the roadways nearby. So, legend number 2. Oh, sorry guys. My cat sat on my laptop, so like now when I try to push the page down button, it tries to go all the way back up. Went down too far in my notes. Alright, so we're talking about the Gray Lady in the Hollow Road. As a teenager, a lot of people have spent time on these roads, I guess back in the 70s through the early 2000s. It was a great place to take people when you were broke, because, there's nothing out there. Rogues Hollow almost had never had any cops patrolling it then. And a couple of scary things happened to this person that sent in a submission to this website that I'm going to share with the link of the show. Alright, once me and my friend Scott were driving through, and I suddenly got this very strange feeling. Aside from being high, of course, because this is a back road, teenagers, that's what they do, that we had somehow driven into another time. We were heading into the Hollow coming from Clinton. I swear I saw an old Model T Ford sitting by the road. No big deal, but then Scott says, "It seems like we're in another time or something, doesn't it?" And I thought to myself, maybe he was trying to make a joke at first because of the old car, but I really did feel a strange feeling, so I agreed. And it's like we were back in the 20s or something. I actually had goosebumps. Then at one point in the road, there is a field beside it, and the old foundation to an old building. I had been looking at Scott when I was speaking to him, and he had looked out the windshield and was looking at something with his mouth hanging wide open. I looked, and moving beside the old foundation toward the road was what looked like a woman in an old-time dress. She was moving very quickly, too fast to be a human, and she seemed to be like a light or a shadow in one, very bizarre, like a very bright gray color. She then moved into the middle of the road in front of us and then vanished. I wasn't going to be the first one of us to say what I had just seen because I was still paranoid, so I didn't speak. But he asked me if I had seen that woman run into the road, and we both saw the same thing at the same time, and I think it was a ghost. The thing is, the only woman ghost I've ever heard about is the one at the Crybaby Bridge, which is by the Historical Society building. We were still about 4 miles from there. The people don't claim to see her as much as they hear her and her baby crying. So here's my Rogues Hollow story. For whatever it's worth, it might just be an overreaction imagination, but I'm thinking it was a ghost. Okay, so here's another says, weird happenings in Rogues Hollow. I just wanted to share with you little information I could remember about the area called Rogues Hollow. It was a former coal mining town near what was known as Doylestown now. There is an area that is full of some crazy stuff and many tales. The Crybaby Bridge, and a big steel frame bridge that the woman had given birth and drowned her illegitimate child under the bridge. Now, if you go across the bridge at night and turn your car off, you can hear the baby cry. There is a story of a headless horseman that roams the area at night. There is also train tracks that have been abandoned for decades, but you can still hear a train come through at midnight. There is a graveyard where the long ground supposedly shakes at midnight on Halloween. So if you're near this graveyard right now, this weekend, or by Tuesday, October 31st, let me know. Because that's kind of odd if you ask me. The ground's supposed to shake at midnight here by the graveyard. Okay. This is just a little bit of info that I can remember. It's been a long time since I have been back there. Submitted by Mindy. Alright. So there's a couple of tales with the Headless Horseman. Some say it's a Headless Horseman, but then some say it's actually a horse that lost its head. So, which I have went to the Rogues Hollow Historical Society website, and they actually don't have a whole lot of information on the actual history. Like, they want you to come here. It's like a little tourist attraction in Doylestown. A headless horse is among the phantoms said to haunt this formerly rough and tumble holler near Doylestown, Ohio. So I'm going to add this little clip too, because it talks a little bit more about the headless horse. According to legend, one unfortunate horse ran into a branch, weighted down by ice at full speed, and it severed the animal's head. From then on, riders reportedly saw a devil or impish creature sitting on the headless horse beneath the tree. So, that's kind of creepy. That's like probably the creepiest thing about this place, in my opinion. Like, it talks a lot about the Crybaby Bridge, a lot about it, which I don't really buy into those. But the Chippewa Rogues Hallow Historical Society is the actual website. And it has like home, events, our history, and contact us. But when you click on our history, it just has a brief history of what says, "Welcome to Chippewa Rogues Hallow Historical Society. We are a non-profit organization based in Doylestown, Ohio, dedicated to preserving and sharing the history and culture of the area, including the village of Rogues Hollow. Like many rural areas and small towns in Ohio, Rogues Hollow was once a thriving coal mining village near our modern-day town. Our society was founded in 1974, and since then we have been collecting, researching, and showcasing the artifacts, stories, and traditions of our community. At our museum, you can explore the exhibits that depict the life and times of the people who lived in and around Rogues Hollow, from early pioneers to the infamous outlaws, from industrial boom to the decline of the village. Our displays offer a fascinating glimpse into the past, and in addition, we host educational programs, events, and tours throughout the year, including our annual Rogues Hollow Festival, which attracts visitors from all over the region. Join us by celebrating the rich heritage of Chippewa Rogues Hollow and discover the stories that make our community unique." And that's all it says. And there's a lot of really adorable photos. It looks like from the late 60s, early 70s, and a little bit older too. There's some that look as old as like the 1920s. Nothing in the 1800s though, when the outlaws were here. There's one that could be, because it's got a horse and buggy out here. There's no cars. It's really cute. So I'll add this website to the description of the show. So now we're going to take a break for Chico and Luna's Clout Corner. Hey guys, I got Luna sitting here beside me licking her butt, and then I got Chico back there in the corner. And we're here with Luna and Chico's Clout Corner. Now, this month's Clout Corner is also going to be next month. So we're going to keep it going all the way till December. It is a secret Christmas decoration drive for the Parker family. They need decorations, ornaments, lights, wrapping, anything to make their Christmas a little bit better. You can pick up She can pick her up your stuff if you message Stacy Higginbottom on Facebook, or you can drop off her things by messaging her and asking for her address. I'm not going to give it out here publicly, but in Stacy's own words, "As many as you all know, last year, Christmas night, my family's home burnt to the ground, leaving nothing in its path, including a beloved dog, a turtle. They lost every single ornament that meant something to us. Most people collect holiday decorations throughout years, but this year they have to start from scratch. She is asking for the community for help. I'm asking that we help the financial burden this Christmas and help my family start new. A fun way to help: see a special ornament, grab it. Have an extra box of wrapping paper or lights. Any Christmas decorations would be much appreciated." And she's going to keep this a secret for now, but I think she's finally decided to make it public for her mom to see it as well. And then she's going to do a special video when she presents them with everything. Like I said, you can have her pick it up locally, or you can send it to her address. Help make this Christmas so much better than the terrible nightmare that was last year. So that is for the Parker family, brought to us by Stacy Parker Higginbottom. Now search for her on Facebook and she'll give you more details on the situation. Now back to the show. Okay, welcome back. Now is the part of our show where we have listener submitted stories. I do have a few this time for Halloween, which I'm super excited about. So the first one is from Eric in Ohio. He said, I've had a few people actually ask me about my ghost encounter when I was a kid. It's pretty silly explaining it as an adult, and I know many people will doubt it, but I swear on everything this really happened. When I was 10 or 11, I was in the living room of our home in the east end of Columbus. My uncle was in the other room lifting weights, and I was just walking about. I hear a knock at our front door. It's just past dark in the evening. We had a door that was all glass paneling in it, so you can see straight through to that door. I reached up to turn the knob without even looking. I'm a kid, and you know what it's like that kids do. I look up as I'm twisting the knob, open the door, and there in front of me, it floated. What looked like, you're gonna laugh, and here's where the absurdity begins, but I swear, probably floated 10 feet or so off the ground, a pale blue sheet ghost. I could almost see right through it. I stood there frozen for about maybe a minute. I ran into the other room to get my uncle. He comes back with me, and guess what? Gone. Of course, freaked me the hell out. Well, thanks for your story, Eric. This next one is actually from my daughter's friend, Sam. I had a whole interview with her, but after I went ghost hunting on October 1st at someone's house, the file got corrupted, and I couldn't actually use the file. So, her story was she had recently went to Elizabeth's grave, and she said that it was almost like things kept moving. And as you recall, when we did the Chillicothe, Ohio episode, Elizabeth's grave actually moves. It's called the case of the moving headstone. So she had that experience when she went to Elizabeth's grave. She felt like things kept moving, and they were not where they were supposed to be. And that's kind of odd. This next one's from Brad. Has anyone ever heard the story of a man and his kids died after flipping the car by the railroad tracks in Chillicothe in the 1960s? They say if you pass the railroad tracks at night, you can hear kids crying. Well, thanks for the story, Brad. This next story is from my neighbor, Paul. I was going to try to interview him too, but work schedules and content creation kind of makes you busy. So his story is he collects a lot of old cuckoo clocks from Germany, and he had one white one in particular. All of his clocks were like, dark wood finishes, darker colors. This one was white, and it was the old-fashioned type of cuckoo clocks that you had to like wind up yourself every 12 hours, and he hasn't wound them for a while. He comes downstairs to get ready for his day one day, and that clock is wound up and doing its thing when no one wound it up. Pretty sure his wife saw a woman in white at that time too. So that's strange. Thanks for your submission, Paul. Neighborino. Alright, so this next story is from Vito Davis. V-E-T-T-O Davis. Last night, a friend rushed me out of the house to catch an opening act at a local bar's music night. After a few drinks, I realized my phone wasn't in my pocket. I checked the table we were sitting at the bar, at the bathrooms, and after no luck, I used my friend's phone to call my phone. After 2 rings, someone answered, gave out a low, graspy giggle, and hung up. They didn't answer again. I've tried calling it again, and it didn't answer. I eventually gave it up as a lost cause and headed home. I get home, I find my phone lying on my nightstand right where I left it, and I still don't know who answered it. Girl, that story gave me goosebumps. No, for real. Spooky! All of these stories have been submitted and narrated with the permission with their authors. So they gave me permission to narrate those for you. Well, guys, so here in the last few minutes of this episode, I'm going to give you some tips about being out in the cemetery alone, which you shouldn't be out there alone. But if you ever want to go to the cemetery and explore it, let me give you some tips. Let me just type in something real quick. Ba-da-ba. So here's some tips if you ever want to go ghost hunting. Never go ghost hunting alone. Always let someone know where you will be. Always carry ID. If you feel uncomfortable, leave. Get permission before going onto private property or being into the cemetery after hours. Reschedule your ghost hunt if it's going to snow or rain or if it's going to get foggy. Also check the pollution count. Moisture and pollen can cause anomalies in photos. If you have a large group, break up into pairs or smaller groups. Carry walkie-talkies or cell phones. You never know when you might need them. Don't use drugs or alcohol before or during an investigation or hunt. Don't smoke any cigarettes where you will be investigating. Make a designated spot for smoking. You don't want a photograph of smoke and think it's an ectomist or a spirit. When trying to record EVPs, never whisper. Talk in your normal voice. You won't scare the ghost if you talk. If you don't, you will make a mistake as a human whisper for a spirit. Always use new tapes in the recorders. Have extra batteries and make sure all equipment is fully charged. Wear a watch so you can note times of events. Wear clothing suited for the weather and always wear comfortable shoes. Don't wear jackets with strings. The strings could get in the way when taking photos and be mistaken for something paranormal, especially if you are shooting downward. Don't wear perfume or cologne while ghost hunting. If using an insect repellent, make sure it's unscented. Some have noticed that scents and smells when they're reported ghost activity. Perfumes may mask these scents. Tie back long hair. When a piece of hair gets in front of the camera, it will look like a vortex. Remove camera straps and be aware that they're there when taking a photo. Many time straps can get in the picture and be mistaken for a vortex, ecto, moving orb, or ghost. Look for things in the way like spider webs, wires, ropes, tree limbs. They can also appear on photos as something paranormal when they're in close range from the camera lens. Always clean the camera lens. Lint, dust specks, smudges, and fingerprints can look like ectomist, orbs, and other ghostly anomalies. Be aware of the temperature when photographing outdoors or in an unheated building. Hold your breath while taking a photo for several seconds afterwards. Remember, if you can see it, so can the camera. Always know where your fingers are when taking photos. A thumb or finger can appear to be a ghost when caught in front of the lens. It is a big letdown to find out it's not paranormal after all. Research the location. If you're going ghost hunting after dark, you should check out it during the daylight hours. Make note of any dangers such as holes, broken glass, loose boards, etc. Be objective of your findings. Rule out any natural causes that may have caused anomalies such as insects, lights in the distance, spider webs, or reflections. You can find all of those tips and tricks on my website, underthemoonparanormal.weebly.com. So, remember, this is an independent show. And if you guys ain't listening, I'm just sitting here talking to myself, which I do anyway, but I'm just glad to know that I have listeners all over the world. Thank you for tuning in and listening to my Ohio accent bring you some really creepy Ohio haunted history and stories brought to you by you. If you would like your story read on the podcast, please submit an email to underthemoonparapod.gmail.com or at gmail.com. Alright guys, well, this wraps up our spooky season. I'm always so sad when Halloween comes to an end. But I had a great Halloween, and I hope you guys did too. And as always, stay spooky.